A lot of walking for a couple of seeds. I'm glad I did a second batch because these don't look all that great.
You made this up all by yourself.
My favorite part about the Dustups community are the bright people showing me innovative ways to build my desert forest. Typically those suggestions go towards things people have seen on YouTube like fog nets, but I never have fog, or things that are wildly expensive like atmospheric water generation, which is 4 times as expensive as just hauling the water from my neighbor's well. But Catherine had an amazing insight. She's a master gardener based out of Colorado, and we email regularly, especially after she attended the Syntropic Agroforestry seminar in May. Between listening to Tiago explain why prickly pear cactus is at the center of my desert forest strategy, and then Jack Spirko explaining how cactus are endophytic, Catherine put a couple of ideas together when she saw this clip on YouTube. Now, this is not about getting a rose to root inside of a cactus. Many different kinds of trees can be propagated by cuttings. You literally clip a branch. If it gets the right conditions, it'll send out roots and grow a new tree. No seeds required. As I'm establishing cuttings, those cuttings need water, but the value is not just the water inside of the prickly pear, it is the endophytes, the microbes living inside of the prickly pear. If I can get trees to root successfully inside of a prickly pear, it means that those trees are very likely to send roots seeking out relationships with other nearby prickly pears that are alive and thriving, and that will be a source of water and nutrients for the trees, which is going to help me build my desert forest. I decided to walk 0.3 miles here in Oxford Canyon to come get some Texas Buckeye clippings, among others, cuttings. And then as I'm walking, all of these giant cumulus clouds just kind of started appearing out of nowhere. And this canyon drains the mountains. So there are parts of my property where I work where there is really no flash flooding risk. This is not one of those places. This can be real bad. You can get caught in a flood here. So I am going to take my cuttings and go, even though I really want to grab more of those seeds. 3, 4. Seed pods off, but let's go. So once I'm closer to the truck and I know we can get out of the canyon if we need to, I'll get some other stuff that I'm looking for. Catclaw acacia is pretty much the main species here. I walked by a whitethorn, which I'd like to get a couple clippings of. I intentionally cut a lot longer than I need so that when I go to peel the bark and expose the cambium, I got plenty of room to work with. And for the record, I don't think this is going to work because this is the fall and most of these plants expect that they're done growing. Although they do have little bits of new growth on them, so that's possible. Part of my job is to find cheap bets that are low effort and high payoff. I don't have any reason to expect that Mexican Buckeye should do well from fall cuttings, but there's not a lot of downside. It's a half hour of walking and a few minutes of cutting, and that's it. The payoff is, if it works, then I'm able to propagate this tree with a little more control. I would prefer to do it by seed for genetic diversity, but for now, the main thing I really need is shade for the understory plants. And if I can do that as quickly with natives versus non-natives, then I definitely prefer the natives. Got my gloves here, so I may as well put the cat claw while I'm in a giant stand of it. The nice thing about being by the truck is I don't have to put those awful thorns in my backpack. They just go in the bed after I get gloved up. Boy, these gloves are at the end of their lifespan. All right, but I got to see green growth on them before these are even worth taking. Man, this isn't even growing. Nope. And then here on the opposite bank, I have willow, and I could see the ends have these green tips growing. But I'm going to try to get from in as many trees, different ones as I can. 2, 3. Oh, this looks great. 5, 6, 7, 9. I've never taken cuttings before. I'm making a lot of assumptions for what I think is good. I've watched YouTube videos and I've had some ideas, but it is always different when you try to apply something that you just learned. Some of these I was more excited about than others. Like, there is new growth on this, but it's already woody at the end. So I might stop where I know I've got better cuttings. See how the tips are dead? How that branch is kind of green yellow. This is what I want. That one's got the right tip too. Yeah, 3. See how the stem is deep dark green, but down here it's woody. This is what I'm looking for. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'll get 6 more when I go back up to camp. All right, here's a couple shoots. Four more. There we go. I think I just saw monarch butterflies right on that plant there. I can't tell. I don't think they're monarchs. What are they? Let's see if we can zoom in. I have this growing on my ranch. I forget what this is called. I've never seen it growing this vigorously. But clearly this is a favorite with the pollinators. I see bees, I see butterflies, some kind of fly on it, some green bug. Man, it's like 4 or 5 different insects that I spotted just driving by. Here. All right, let me go drop this off. I can tell you that I'm not going to touch that fence on purpose. Hello, little birdie. Sorry to chase you down. Okay, so that's willow. I got all the buckeye and agarita mixed together. That one's thick enough. This is probably where I'm going to drill. It's already cut. Why cut a new hole? That one might be a little too small. This is all brown spine prickly pear. I wish I could come across a different species just so I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. I want those big, heavy roots where they're fibrous and they're soaked in water. And more importantly, microbes. I want really good contact. All right, Now I gotta figure out how I'm gonna dig this. I think that's enough to start and just kind of get a feel for it since I've never done it before. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna need a shovel. I hate digging this up because I see all the moisture. I don't know how deeply to root this because the growth is so minimal. Like the wood is right there. This is not long enough for it to live. This one really feels like a stretch. I think the Texas Buckeye is the least likely to work, but still gonna try it. I'm gonna cut as far down on this new wood as possible. And what I wanna see, I wish that was bigger, but I think that's what I'm going to have to roll with. And we should know within a few weeks if that's going to make it or not. Actually, probably a couple days. Oh, geez, that was reckless. All right, let's try a different one. This time we're gonna do desert willow. I don't think I got anything to work with the agarita, but I'm gonna try it. I don't think, well, yeah, I can make that work. I'm trying to keep these connected so that I have as much water as possible. Like that. Get that exposed. Here's a very fast close-up because this is very time sensitive. And then get that stuck in there. You know, I'm sitting here doing this and I realize there's so many variables that I'm assuming, like the age of the cactus that I should be planting or the cuts that I'm making on these plants. I won't know what goes wrong if I insist on burying them. I really need to prove that the plants are rooting into the cactus before burying them makes any sense. So instead of sitting here burying all of them and then I can't check on what worked or whether things are rooting, I'm gonna take my plants back to camp and do everything there. And I will do the cuttings into cactus at camp and keep them in the shade. And then in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll just pull the cuttings and see how they did. If they rooted, then we'll know that the idea works, and hopefully we'll learn something about the type of, like the age of the cactus that I put it into, if it goes into a really old root, or if it should go into a fresh, juicy pad like this one that I did with the agarita. Yeah, I think this is smarter to do at camp, so I'm gonna pack up and move. And just to be honest, my motivation's pretty low this morning, so I'm gonna focus on what I actually expect to work. Well, not expect to work, but what I think has the best chance is this willow. So I'm gonna prioritize the willow, and then the buckeye, and then the agarita. And we'll see how it goes. I wish I had an even thinner bit, but I got what I got. right here. Cut here. Comes right off. Comes right off. Here, here. Get that. Oops. Just don't bend it. And there we go. And now I'll just go stick this in the shade, and I'll set everything down here until I find a better way to organize and think it through. Little flowers in the making. I don't know if I want the ones with flowers or not. Probably not. Prioritize some of this younger growth. Not quite so long. I didn't want this one because of the seeds, so I'll just put this in the junk pile. Take some more. I'll cut it like right here. Oh man, I wish that was a little deeper. Make sure that I don't risk the cambium drying out, and see how that goes. Perfect. I don't know why I thought it would be more successful with these older pads where the tissue is more woody, but I don't know, now that I actually see the tissue, I think the older pads are going to be worse and the younger pads that are more moist will probably be better, but it's a balance, because even though willow can handle wet feet, that doesn't necessarily mean they want it to be sopping wet. So I think the only thing I can do is make my experiment and wait, but I really want to know the answer right now. I thought I had enough for willow, but I only had enough for exactly 10. And I just tried the Texas Buckeye, and this is probably just not the time of year to be doing this because there's barely any green growth anyway. I'll show you. I'm trying to keep as much stem as possible, but look for the young wood. But this is this year's growth, last year's growth, year before that. So because this is growing so slow, I would ideally like to have a 6 or 8 inch stem, and it just is not there. See if I can get the cambium exposed, but it's been really hard. The cambium, like the wood just felt like it was pliable in young wood, whereas this Buckeye is a lot more just rough. And this is, I mean, it makes sense. This is a slow growing plant. You can see the difference. The willow stems are this long, and if not longer, for a single year growth, whereas this Buckeye, this is an entire year of growth. So I think I can get this exposed, which stinks because I walked half a mile to get this stuff, and aside from a handful of seeds that I happened to collect while I was there, yeah, I just can't. A lot of walking for a couple of seeds. I can't get this peel. Yeah, I already harmed the wood. All right, no Buckeye. See how we do. It's yellow and pretty wet, so maybe it's worth a shot. Speed's also an issue because this cambium dies 30 seconds after it's exposed to air. I really don't expect much. I don't think that's gonna work, but I'm trying. Did I run out? I did. It's a short drive. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna go down to the canyon and get 10 more willows that I'm really happy with now that I have more of an opinion. And the advantage to going to get more willow is that'll give me 20 attempts. I mean, if you get 0 out of 20, clearly it ain't gonna work. So I think that's enough to have justified the time without spending any more time than is necessary to see if the idea has merit. And I'm just gonna follow the original plan, which was I thought willow was the one that would work, so I'm gonna keep my efforts to willow. I am gonna plant all these, but not with the intention of it being permanent. I'm just gonna scoop out one of these holes I have near camp for compost, stick all these pads in with the trees upright, and I think that's the best simulation for me having planted them. And then in 3 weeks, if this all works, I'll come back and dig them up, or we'll just do a bunch more transplants. But the whole point of this is not to get this particular tree established. I'm just trying to prove that this is actually a successful method. There we go. That way, that's already quite a bit of protection from the sun and the wind. So we'll see how many of these live. And 2 or 3 weeks is probably the threshold. If there's any green leaves, it's probably a success. Brandon came up and asked me a really good question about why I was cutting the willow in that particular manner. I don't know that that's the best method. The reason I'm doing it is I've seen what I think is called air rooting, where you cut a live branch, you basically girdle a branch, and then you plant potting soil around it. And I am inspired by the same idea. I'm not sure that it's the best. So if you think I should have been wounding or not even wounding the scions, then leave a comment, let me know, because I'm not an expert. So Brandon and I just cut all this grass, and we'll just use it as mulch that's super easy to remove and put it right into the hole. So this is a second one that I made with smaller cuttings, and I think those are way less likely to do well. I'm glad I did a second batch because these don't look all that great.
Maybe Tom's would be good. Get it down between.
You think so? I don't want to damage it because I'm more worried about hurting the branches.
Yeah, of course. That's why I was gonna say just.
Oh, I see. Just go slow.
That way, yeah. Maybe we have it down in there.
Okay, yeah, just do it vertically probably too. I like that idea better. The nice thing about this too is nothing goes to waste, because as soon as we pull all this stuff out, if there's extra grass, it just becomes mulch or compost, or however you want to view it. I'm glad you suggested the grass. That's absolutely going to help them.
It'll be easy to get out of there. It'll hold some moisture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We just kind of made this up, but if this actually works, this is a pretty good like storage strategy.
You made this up all by yourself. I don't want to take any credit until it works.
And again, that's just for temporary storage. We just want to see that the rooting is successful before I spend the time putting it on the terrace.
How do we ascertain if the rooting is successful?
Oh, because if the stick becomes brittle and dies, then obviously it didn't root. If it looks like it's alive, it's because it rooted.
Gotcha.
I promise to keep y'all updated on the experiment and how it's going. Even reflecting back on this episode, I already have ideas for what I should have done differently. No doubt you are leaving comments with what you think I should be doing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.